Take a look at futures this morning. Here is how we are kicking off this Friday. Dow up 282, S&P up 25 and change, NASDAQ up 100. The president is busy up on Truth Social this morning, saying that a simple celebration of markets is new stock market records. There you go, new stock market record. That's all you got to say from the president this morning, because take a look at this market, and tech stocks really are, that's been the story. NVIDIA's blockbuster quarter, that earnings beat they had this week, was certainly the power that the market needed and continues to need. And then you've got this major tech IPO, SpaceX officially filing paperwork to go public. OpenAI could reportedly file within days or weeks. Anthropic is going to be later this year. Companies as a portion of shares are going to be sold to regular retail investors through trading platforms like Fidelity, Robinhood, and Charles Schwab. I want to bring in SlateStone Wealth partner and chief market strategist Kenny Polcari. President Trump likes the markets. Do you right now, Kenny?
Yeah, I do. Listen, I'm always excited about the markets, and I think today you just have to be a little bit careful. It's a long weekend. Volumes will be thin, moves will be exaggerated. But yes, overall, I'm bullish on the market. I'm bullish on the economy. Do I think that parts of the market are a little bit stretched? Sure. Do I think you should continue to be disciplined and stick to your plan? Absolutely. But overall, I'm bullish.
I'll tell you what, the editorial board at the Wall Street Journal writes this: America's IPO mini boom. Too bad SpaceX and others didn't go public sooner, but they are a tribute to the U.S. capitalist system. And what they really point out that I think is interesting here is they say, look, this is under this administration. This is under whole of government approach to embolden business to grow, to go public. All boats will rise. Right. And they particularly give credit to SEC Chair Paul Atkins on that, Kenny.
I agree 100%. I think that all the excitement, first of all the excitement just around the technology and things like SpaceX just talks about a whole nother world that we're going to enter. But I think it's absolutely a result of kind of this administration, the policies, and the overall health of the economy.
Well, we've also got today big news. 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Kevin Warsh is going to be sworn in as the new Fed chair by President Trump. This will be an event at the White House. Let's take a look at yields this morning. The bond market does close an hour early, 2 p.m. Eastern Time for Memorial Day. The Fed minutes, Kenny, did show that there's more openness to a possible rate hike. Policymakers saying high energy prices, the president's tariff plan are putting pressure on inflation. What do you think?
Listen, I think that's true, and we've been talking about that, right? I think the market's actually pricing in the chances of a hike before the chances of another cut, and I think that makes sense given where we are right now with the Iran situation and oil. If we see the situation be resolved anytime soon, and I'm hoping it is, as so many people are, we'll see oil come down. That will take some of the pressure off of certainly the inflation monster, but and then I think that'll take some of the pressure off to talk about rate hikes. If we stay at these levels with oil and they continue to fuel inflation, then I think that's going to be the sad truth, is that there's going to have to be a hike before there's a cut. But I'm hoping that we're going to get a resolution, oil will come down, and then rates will stay flat. A
resolution to the Iran conflict, making sure that Strait of Hormuz is open. I want to bring in John Lonsky, because it is pretty hard to believe. We started this year talking about rate cuts. John Lonsky, now we're talking about rate hikes.
Talking about rate hikes because everybody's worried about price inflation. It doesn't seem to want to go away. And chances are that even if we resolve the situation with Iran, we're not going to see an immediate decline by price inflation. You know, my goodness, we're getting these very strong readings on revenue growth, S&P 500 member companies. But I want to move to something else, Kenny, related to the equity market. And I couldn't help but notice that with yesterday's sell-off of Walmart, the other big retailers that went down in price had stratospheric PE ratios, and that would be Costco and TJX. On the other hand, those with PE ratios less than 20, here I'm talking about Dollar General, Dollar Tree, as well as Target, they all went higher in price. Are you concerned that perhaps we've become too blind to or too complacent about elevated price to earnings ratios?
I I think that's always a concern, John, right? That people just get this sense, and the VIX tells you, right, that people get this sense of complacency, so they start just going all in. I think you have to take that into account. You have to realize when some names are stretching, others are not. You have to look for the opportunity. So I'm just more concerned that, they're elevated, right, and that investors should be aware of that, and they should be disciplined on when they go in. They need some of these stocks need to have an adjustment. They need to come kind of back to reality, and I think that's going to be the issue. But that's true across any sector, not just the consumer sector or the retailers or airlines or anything. That's true across the board.
I want to look at oil real quick, Kenny, with you before we go, because oil prices, look, we're underneath the $100 mark, at least for WTI. President says that Iran talks are in the final stages as Tehran reviews the latest U.S. proposal. We're looking at gas prices for the weekend. Average price right now for a gallon of regular is $4.55. And then, of course, we talked about the Walmart story just a moment ago. Kenny, one of the things that's been on the table here, and Ed Lawrence asked the White House about this on Wednesday, is suspending the federal gas tax. Give Americans a break, and that's one of the ways to do it. What do you think?
Yeah, listen, I think that always works, right? Certainly suspending any tax is viewed as a positive. But I do think if we get a resolution, like I said to you, I would expect that oil's going to come down and gas will come down. Now, to John's point, do I think oil's going right back to 62? Probably not. But could we see oil go back into the low 80s and high 70s? Sure. And that should absolutely start to impact the price of gasoline. But taking, removing that tax for whatever it is, a couple of weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever they want to do, will certainly help.
Yeah, Kenny Polcari, what a market. What a week. It's great to see you here. Thank you so much. What are you making this weekend? What's on the menu?
You as well. Have a great weekend.
Real quick, what's on the menu, Kenny? We need to know.
Actually, those short rib burgers I put in my note yesterday, they are outstanding. The ground beef mixed with short ribs. Oh my God, delicious.
It's never boring. Your notes are the best. Kenny, it's great to see you. Have a great weekend. Enjoy.